Hi, so this session we're looking at a few algebra skills and we'll be covering adding and subtracting like terms, evaluating expressions using substitution, multiplying expressions and expanding brackets. So there are a few skills that we will be covering and we've covered this in class anyway. So it's just some useful revision. So with our first question, it's asking us to simplify, and we know simplify means to make, in this case, this expression more simple. Now we notice it's all positive, so we don't have to circle to the left because we're going to be adding everything. And we know that we can only add like terms. Okay, so a key word we have is like term or like terms. And like terms means they're the same or they like each other. So for example, if I have an A here, I can see there's an A by itself here, which is the same thing. It's a like term. And there's a 1 in front of that A. So left to right, 2A plus 1A, or 2 plus 1 is equal to 3A. It's like saying 2 apples plus 1 apple is 3 apples. And you can cross it off once we're done. And you notice we've got a B here and a B here as well. That's by itself. So they're like terms and we can add them. There's really a 1 there. So 1, positive 1 plus 2, 1 plus 2 is 3, or positive 3B. And that's it. Now we have to make sure that we make the positive, the plus, visible. We know it's a positive 3B because 1 plus 2 is 3 and it's a positive 3. Don't write your answer like this, 3A and then 3B. Okay, you must have an operation in between them. And in this case, it's plus because 3B was positive. So our next example, we notice first let's identify what terms we have and the variables that are inside. In those terms. So we can forget about the numbers for now. We've got ABC here and we've got BCA here. And 3 is a number on its own that we call a constant. So with ABC, is this the same as BCA? Yes, it is, because we have an A here and there, we have a B on both sides, and we have a C. So they are like terms. Order does not matter. And to remember why, it's because, for example, we know there's an invisible times in between the B, C, and the A. And invisible times in between everything. And if we have, for example, if A was just say 2 times and B was 3 times C was 4, imagine we replace them with numbers. Well, 2 times 3 is 6 and 6 times 4 is 24. And if I rearrange these, just say I put my B first, so I put 3 first, times C, which is 4, and then times 2, I've rearranged my order, but 3 times 4 is 12, and 12 times 2 is 24. We still get the same answer. And that is why order doesn't matter when we are multiplying. Okay? So ABC and BCA are like terms. So we can add these together. What's 2 plus 5? Well, 2 plus 5 is 7. And we are supposed to write our final answer in alphabetical order. So we'll write down A, B, C. But if you did write down BCA, technically it's the same thing. And we can cross that off. And 3, because 3 is a number on its own, it's going to remain a number on its own. Unless we have the same variables next to it, like A, B, C, we can't add it with the 7. Okay, it's just 3 on its own. So that's our final answer. Now with our next question, we can notice that now we have a lot of negatives and a positive. When we see this and we see different terms, we can't just work from left to right because we've got an A here and an X squared, but I can see an A over here. And that A is a like term with this A over here. So that's why it's important we circle to the left and circle the operation. That X squared is negative. That 5A is negative. That 10 is a positive, 10x squared. And that 2A is a negative 2A. And by doing that, we can clearly see what is negative and what is positive. And now we have to add our like terms. Now, another way to start off your working out is you can actually write down parts of your answer because our variables don't actually change. It's the numbers in front of them that change when we add or subtract variables or like terms. Next year, we'll be learning how these variables, the powers, can actually change when we multiply the same base. For example, if we have just say A times A, that's actually going to give us A squared because we add the powers of A. Just like saying 2 times 2 is the same as 2 squared. Okay, we really are adding the powers of those two, and there's an invisible one. But we'll be doing this next year. But when we multiply the same variable, the same letter, that's when the powers, so the variable actually changes. But because we're adding and subtracting, we can see the operation in between these terms is addition and subtraction that are actually change. So we can write down the terms the different variables we see. So I've got an a, so I will have an a in my answer. And I've got an x squared, that's different to an a, so I will have an x squared in my answer. Okay, and I'll check everything else. They're the two different things that I'll have in my answer. The a doesn't change, the x squared doesn't change. It's the number in front of them that might change. So now we have to add our like terms. We've got an a there and an a there. So working from left to right, what is minus 2 minus 5? Minus 2 minus 5, I know, is minus 7. And that goes in front of the a. Now I'll cross this off because we've used and simplified our a. And now we've got the x squared. Are there any more x squareds in the whole thing? I'll use a different color. Yes, we've got an x squared here and an x squared there. The number in front of this x squared is minus 1, and that is positive 10. Working from left to right, what is 10? So positive 10 minus 1. 10 take away 1 is just a 9, and we know it's a positive 9. I'll keep it the same color. So it's a positive 9, we put a plus in the middle. And there we have it. There's our final answer. There's nothing else we can do. An a is different to an a squared. And we are good now with our negative skills, our negative number skills. And we work from left to right. Now the next questions we'll be doing will be evaluating expressions using substitution. And just remember, evaluating, the word evaluate means to add value. Or in maths, it means to show the value. And the way to do this is by using substitution. And remember, substitution means to replace something. Just like in sport, if we have to substitute somebody, sub off, we're replacing another team member. So substitution means replacing in maths as well. But evaluating means to show the value. So just remember these keywords, evaluating and substitution. We'll be using those in this next part. So for our first example, so the question's asking us to evaluate, which means to show the value using substitution. So our first question, I'll just finish it off. Just say we have 2 plus a. Now, with this question here, if I have 2 plus a, is there anything I can do? Anything else I can do? No, there isn't. Do I know what my number a is? And can I get a final answer? Unfortunately, we can't. Unless we know what a is, we can't actually go 2 plus a to give us a number. So we can't actually find the value. But because we're given a value, up here it's telling us if a equals 2. So instead of a here, we're going to replace a with 2. So they're telling us if a is equal to 2, okay, we're going to use substitution. So we're going to replace this a with 2 and then evaluate it by adding it up. So we'll have 2 plus, instead of a now, we'll put a positive 2. Now we should really substitute with brackets. In this example, it won't make a difference, but I'll use brackets so we can start practicing. And we know these brackets don't have to be there because inside the brackets, there's nothing for me to calculate. So we're just saying, what's 2 plus 2? 2 plus 2 is 4. And there's our answer. Because now we are showing the value, 4 is an actual number. And there's no other unknown variable. We just got a number 4. So we have shown the value. We have evaluated. Okay, our next two questions. So if a is equal to 2, let's evaluate these two questions using substitution. So instead of a, I'm going to replace a or substitute a for 2. So I'm going to have 2 plus 2 plus 3. The brackets have to be there, but like I said, it's important to know that we have to actually use brackets when using substitution. And sometimes it makes a big difference. For this one, it didn't. So 2 plus 2 is 4, and 4 plus 3 is 7. And that's our answer for question 2. Number 3, we've got a squared times a. So once again, what is a? A is 2. So I'll put a in brackets, and then I'll put my square. Remember the brackets have to be there, so it's just, a is actually 2. I forgot to replace it. So we've got 2 squared. And remember the brackets don't have to be there. Times A is 2. So now we know using our BIDMAS order of operations, we know that index numbers come first. So 2 squared is saying 4 times 2. And what is 4 times 2? 4 times 2 is 8. And there's our final answer. Okay, so now we've got, with our question, it's asking us to use substitution. We've got 2 variables given to us. If A is 2 and B is -3. So let's do these 3 questions. Some of them may look a bit tricky, but they're actually all quite easy. Now, we have to remember in between variables and numbers, if they're all sitting together, there's an invisible times there. So we're saying A times B here and A times B. Down here we have A squared times B. Here we've got A times B, and the A is by itself. So you can make that visible. Now, with question 1, we've got A times B. A is 2, B is -3. So I'll put this in brackets like this. 2 times -3. We've got to do that first. Plus A times B, the same thing. 2 times -3. Okay. I've just made some more room. We'll come back to question 2 in a second. So now we've got 2 times -3. That is -6. Plus 2 times -3. That is also -6. And we can see that a positive and a negative that are sitting together make a negative. So we end up with -6 to -6. The minus there. And -6 minus 6 is -12. So be careful with your negatives and positives. And remember that there's a times in between the A and the B. So with our second question, we had A squared B or A squared times B. So once again, what is our A? A is 2. So I'm going to separate these two. So remember we got A squared times B. So they're 2 separate things. So A, I'm going to put in brackets and then square it, times B. I can put B in its own brackets as well, and because B is now a -3. The brackets for this one don't actually have to be there, because if they weren't there, we'll still get the same answer. But like I always say, it's important to practice. 2 squared is 2 times 2, which is 4. Then we've got a times there, times a -3. So the brackets don't have to be there, because in the brackets, there's nothing for me to calculate. Now, we are saying 4 times a -3, not 4 times subtract 3. So what is 4 times 3 normally? 4 times 3 is just 12. But we know our positive and negative number skills, there's an invisible positive there. And a positive times a negative, they come together. When they come together, a positive and a negative make a negative. So our final answer is -12. And for our last question, we'll keep that colour. We've got A times B divided by A, or over A. So once again, what is A? A is 2, and I'll put this in brackets because we've got to do the top bit first. So 2 times B, which is -3, it's on top, over A, which is 2. It's very important we calculate what's on top first. We always simplify the numerators whenever we can. So 2 times -3 is -6, or -6 over 2. And now we know that 6 over 2 is really saying 6 divided by 2. And it's a negative and a positive down there. So we know a negative and a positive make a negative. I'll put the answer just here. So equals, our answer will be negative, and 6 divided by 2 is just -3. And there's our answer. The next skill we are looking at is multiplying expressions. So let's get started. So our first question is asking us to simplify this expression here. Now, be very careful. Always check our operations. And we've got in between everything, we have a times. If we had this, if we had A, if we had A, instead of times, we had plus B, and then plus C, and plus D. So I replaced all my multiplication signs with addition. This is completely different. And if they asked us to simplify this, can we do anything with this question here? No, we can't, because we can't add any of these. None of them are the same. There's no other A to add, no other B to add with B, and so on. So if the operation was plus, we couldn't actually do anything. But we can see our operation in between everything is multiplication. So always check the operations that you see in between the variables. And sometimes you might see both. You might see times here and a plus there. Now, to simplify when multiplying, all we have to do is, in this case, make the multiplication symbol invisible. So this is our answer. If I remove the times or make them invisible, there's our answer. Or to write it without big gaps, we have A, B, C, and D. Done. Because in between all of these, there's an invisible times. Now, there won't need any numbers to multiply, but the next few examples, we may have numbers to multiply with. So if you have a look at this question here, we've got 2 times A times B times 3. Yes, the multiplication symbols will become all invisible, but before we do that, because we have numbers now, we have to multiply these numbers. Now, there are no negatives to worry about, but we've got 2 times A, 3. Because I know that 2 times 3 will give me a 6. So always take care of your numbers first. And then A times B is just going to be AB. So remember, there's actually an invisible times in between the 6 and the A and the B. But we don't write it anymore because we simplified it. Now with question 3, we're doing the exact same thing. And don't forget, if this is confusing you having 2B and C together and 2A together, don't forget there's an invisible times in between everything. So this actually, question 3 can be written like this. 2 times A times 2 times B times C. We can actually write it out like this. And we're doing the exact same thing as what we had above here. 2 times 2 is 4. Always take care of your numbers first. And then A, B, and C, none of them are the same. So we just have A, B, and C. And that's it. And remember, there's an invisible times there. Now with our next question, the first step is, do we have times in between our terms? Yes, we do. Now we also notice there are negatives. So our first step is, if you want to write down some points, your first step is take care of any negatives. So the trick is, you count, because we're multiplying everything, and we've checked that we count how many negatives do you see in the whole thing. There's 1 here and another 1 there. So altogether there's 2. And that means 2 negatives, when they're multiplied together, will make a positive. Or 2, because it's an even amount, we know an even amount of negatives always will give us a positive. And that's taken care of. The next step, so our second step for this one, is to multiply our numbers. So times the numbers. So what numbers do we have? We've got 2, 3, and 2. So 2 times 3 is 6, and 6 times 2 is 12. Our numbers are taken care of. And finally, all we have to do is get A, B, and C. I'll keep it the same color. A, B, and C, and write A, B, and C. And we're done. And we know there's at times in between everything. We are really saying a positive 12 times A times B times C. And the positive, if you want to write it invisible, you can. And there's your final answer. So the final thing we're looking at for this session is expanding brackets. And we'll be using our multiplying skills that we just learned. Now in maths, expand basically means this. Next, see how we have a brackets, and inside the brackets we have x plus 1. Now we can't add x plus 1 in our brackets, but what we can do is expand this to simplify it further. So in between the 2 and the bracket, there's actually an invisible times there. And what expand means is to get this 2 on the outside and multiply it with every other number or variable inside the bracket. Everything else must get a turn. And all you got to do is go 2 times x and 2 times, it's a positive 1. So for this one, our answer will be, you can show working out or you can do it mentally. 2 times x, we know, is just going to be 2x. A plus is there, so plus 2 times 1 is 2. And that's our final answer. We can't add these together because that's 2x and it's different to a 2 by itself. And the reason why we can do this, just in case you've forgotten, is this. If we have, for example, 2 bracket 2 plus 1, just say, see how we've got 2 plus 1 inside the brackets? Using our BidMath skills, we can work this out. We can have 2 bracket 2 plus 1 is 3. We know there's a times in between the 2 and 3. So 2 times 3 is 6. Now, if I try doing it the way we just did it here, by expanding, if I try going 2 times 2 and then plus 2 times 1, let's see if we get the same answer. So we'll try it this way. So 2 times 2 is 4, plus in the middle, 2 times 1 is 2. And 4 plus 2 is 6. So you can see how we got the same answer by using our BidMath skills and working inside the brackets first, or trying it this way, expanding, multiplying everything in the inside by that 2. And that's why it works with algebra. For our next example, we have to expand for this one. And you notice out here we have a 2 and an A, which is fine. That's just saying 2A or 2 times A. And if it helps, get your arrows to say we've got to go 2A times A and 2A times 2B and put a times there. Now, actually, I'm going to change this A. I've just realized. Sorry, I'm just going to change it to a C. So we don't have the same variable being multiplied. So just change it to a C. So we've got 2A times C and 2A times 2B. So for this one, we can do this mentally, but let's show some working out for this one. And this is how you can show working out. First of all, you go 2A times C in one bracket. So 2A times C. There's a plus here, so we put a plus. And in our next bracket, we have 2A times 2B. 2A times 2B. And now we work inside our brackets and see if we can add them. Well, 2A times C is just going to be, well, 2, there's no other number, so we're going to have 2 and an A and C. The times is invisible. Plus, don't forget that plus in between them, 2A times 2B. Let's first take care of our numbers. 2 times 2 is 4, and A times B is just AB. Can we add these together? AC is different to AB. They're not like terms, so that's our final answer. Now with this last question, it is more of a challenge question, but it's actually quite easy. So let's do it. So out here, you notice we have a minus 2A. I'm going to circle it because we have to remember there's a negative here now. And we're going to get minus 2A times the A, minus 2A times the 3B, which is positive, and minus 2A times that negative 5 there, or the 5. Now, if you can do this mentally, that's fine, go ahead. But for this one, we are going to show working out so we don't make any mistakes. So now, in our first bracket, we have minus 2A. So minus 2A times, we are multiplying everything, times, what do we have here? An A. It's in our first bracket. Plus, our next bracket, we've got minus 2A. So minus 2A times a 3B. Okay? And then I'll just write it down here. You can write it on one line, but I can't fit it in. We've got in our next bracket, what operation do you see here? It's very important that we don't forget the operation here, and it's take away. So take away, and in our next bracket, we've got minus 2A times a 5. Don't write minus 5, just write 5 because we've already put a negative over here, okay? So be very careful. Doing it this way, you take care of these operations by writing them in between the brackets. So now what we have is minus 2A times A, and I've just realized I did the same thing as before. So I'm just going to change this A to a C again. So just do that yourself as well, sorry. If you know how to do these ones where you're multiplying the same variable, then go ahead and do it. So I'm going to change that A to a C. Sorry about that. All right, let's try it again. So minus 2A times C that I just changed is minus 2AC. Nothing else can change. We've got a plus here, so a plus. Inside these brackets, we have a minus 2A times a 3B. Take care of our numbers first. Minus 2 times 3, That gives us a minus 6. And the A and the B just come together. Okay? And now we've got our minus. So minus. And then inside these brackets, we have a minus 2 times 5. And minus 2 times 5 is a minus 10. And don't forget that A is sitting there. So minus 10A. And now this is where we use our negative number skills. Two negatives together make a positive, and a positive and a negative make a negative. Okay? And so what we have now is minus 2AC minus 6AB plus 10A. And now do our final check. Can we, any of these like terms? We've got an AC here, no ACs, AB, no, and there's no A by itself besides that one. So we can't simplify this further. We can't add or subtract any like terms. So this one was more of a challenge one, only because we had a negative here and a negative inside there. So just remember, when expanding, even if you have 3 terms, so we had a C, a 3B, and a 5, even if you had 10 more, everything gets a turn to be multiplied with the minus 2A in this example. So our final one is this one here. It's sort of a fun one, and that is we have to expand this. So we're going to have A times B and A times C and A times D, A times E, A times F, and A times G. We know that everything must be multiplied by that A that's inside the brackets. And let's do it. So we can do this one mentally. A times B is just AB plus, so plus. A times C is AC plus. A times E is AD. It's a minus now, so minus. A times E is AE. Another minus. A times F is AF. Oh, I can't fit it on one line. There's a plus there, plus. A times G is AG. And are any of these like terms? No, they're all different. So keep practicing these skills, and thank you for watching.